I have had quite an interesting couple weeks. I don't know how many of you knew, but I live on Maui, and there has been a huge disaster here on the other side of the island, and also lots of fires elsewhere as well. So I have been, the last 2 Tuesdays ago, I actually evacuated my house. Luckily, it was safe and fine. Spent 2 nights outside of my house, mostly because of the smoke, and then came back and was just trying to help people who needed it more than me as much as possible. So I've been doing that for a couple weeks. Wasn't really an emotional place to be here last week, but it was really nice to show up for my students a little bits at a time, and haven't wanted to sing a whole lot myself in times like this, you know. It's just sometimes singing feels like too much of a luxury, or it feels like I don't deserve to feel the joy that I get from singing, even though that's not a real thing. It just feels weird, you know, when there has been a big shift and a big disaster, and so many people are hurting. So I haven't really been singing for myself lately, which I think is what we're talking about today, because this is where the conversation is going. You know, when things in your life are bigger than singing, and how do you bring yourself back to your voice after a while of not being in practice with your voice, after a long while of feeling like you can't literally physically make sounds, you know, other than just talking, other than just doing the bare minimum, you know, getting out of bed, or maybe you are a helper, and like I was the last couple of weeks, and just going, and never feeling like you're doing enough. It feels like using your voice to make music feels irresponsible, I guess, in a little bit of a way. So there's definitely many layers to all of this, and to the reasons why you may not have been singing. But I've been getting that a lot from my students lately too. Like, something in the planets or something is holding a lot of people back from singing often, practicing their voice, letting it out, even feeling like it's worthy to spend any time on, because everything is just so big and so important. Sometimes our creative outlet and our creative joy feels very unimportant. But I'm here to tell you that it is not. Totally, that's how it feels. It feels like you're wasting energy or something. It feels like you are, you know, taking time away from something else you could be doing, when really the, you know, yeah, totally, Sam, the collective trauma rages on. Yeah, and it really rears its head in times like this. Like, we feel like, because, you know, if you're in my position, because you still have a home and you didn't lose anything, that all of your 24 hours have to be spent doing something productive. And that was already a thing that I had before this whole thing happened. So it just really dug its head in. And that's my gremlin. Like, you're not doing enough. You are not enough. You don't deserve to rest. Other people are suffering. Shouldn't you be spending all this free time doing something productive and doing something out in the community and showing it? But also, it makes you forget all the things that you did do in the past, right? And that happens in non-disaster times. Like, so many of us, and my students are very much included, yeah, totally, you don't deserve the emotional release. Exactly, that's how it feels. That's what the gremlin is telling you, right? So many students come to me on a regular basis when they're not in crisis, and they go, I just could not, for whatever reason, because they feel like they're not where they need to be. They just forget all the places that they have come from. They forget all the good work that they have done. And so they start to look at it from the gremlin's eyes and they say, okay, I am still not belting those high notes like I want to be. I'm just not going to sing today. I'm just going to, go do something that feels more important, like I'm going to clean my whole house or, go, take another, run or something. Some people have a lot of need to be productive. And I feel, I'm one of those people. I'm right there with you. So it feels like there's always something to do and there's never enough energy or time to do it. And singing takes the back burner and we write off all the progress that we made. And we don't give ourselves any credit for the hard work that we've done in the past. And then it becomes a question of, okay, then what am I doing with my life? It very quickly spirals into existential dread. So, and I'm sure you're here, you've felt this before. Like, what's the point of singing if there's so much shit going on in the world, Sorry if this is not the episode that you're in the mood for today, but this is where I am, so here we go. So yeah, I just want to talk about, like, what do we do for ourselves in these moments where you just don't feel like singing? And that it could be helpful, it could lift your spirits, it could bring your mind and your body out of stuckness. But for whatever reason, you just cannot do that. So I've been learning a lot about the nervous system through a couple of different sources, but mainly through muscle music, Ruby Rose Fox, who I talk about all the time. I love her so much. And I think she would have an opinion that is somewhat like this is some form of a freeze state. So we all have our default reactions to, oh no, hold on. What am I doing? Okay, hopefully you can still hear me. We all have our default reactions to conflict and to difficulty situations. Some people are fighters. We just fight into it. Go, go, go. Some people are flighters. We're just like, nope, not a part of this. Peace out. Some people are fawners. We just say, yep, okay, whatever you think is your call. Yes, good, fine, I'm wrong. And then the freeze is a very different state than those three usually, because we are literally, your nervous system is in such a state where it literally can't move. It's like one of those little bugs, the pill bugs, roly-polies, you know what I'm talking about? So they literally sense any kind of danger. I don't know if you, when you were a kid, you used to like test this, like you just poke them and they roll up into a little ball, right? That's freeze state. They're like, nope, I'm not moving until I calm down or I know that there's no threat here, because the second I open up, something could happen to me, right? So it feels kind of like that. Like you have all these desires to do something, to open up and to go take actions, but your body is like literally not letting you. And I don't feel like that a lot in my life. But the last couple weeks, I have felt like that a couple times. And it's really weird for me because I'm usually a fighter. I'm like action, anger, action. One of the two is always happening. But when I get tired, I freeze. And I like can't get out of my own way, you know? And it's not that it's my own fault for standing in my own way. That happens in other areas of my life. But in this particular feeling, your nervous system is in such a state where it literally cannot unfreeze itself, right? There's no amount of just talking yourself out of a freeze. Well, there might be some, but it's a lot harder than talking yourself out of a fight state. Yeah. And that's totally okay. You know, some people default into freeze a lot more often, depending on where they have been in their life, depending on your body, depending on your mind and your traumas and your experiences. So if this is you, what I've learned is like, instead of trying to like shake yourself out of it like we do in fight or flight, the only way out is slow, slow, gentle movement. And what that looks like may be different for you. So a lot of times when we're talking about getting out of a freeze state, we work on making the body feel like it's safe first and foremost, because otherwise any movement is not going to happen. Like too much movement is just going to make it worse, right? So Ruby Rose talks about just like gentle movement. So whether that means just like swaying or finding a place where your hand is on your belly and you're just focusing on the movement of that, so that you can remind yourself that you can move from a safe place. There's a couple of other different things to do. Like she often tells us to give ourselves a hug, one hand on your armpit, one hand on your shoulder, because this is a big signal to the body that you're in a safer place if you're being held, even if that means you have to hold yourself. So if you want to do this with me, you totally can, unless you're in a car or something. Just give yourself a nice little hug. Shoulder, armpit. Something about these points here and just giving yourself that held feeling, just for me, it makes the snow in my snow globe just settle. Feels like the atoms are all finally aligning and settling. And so that can be a way to get your body into a place where you at least feel like you can move a little bit more. Like it depends on how you've been trained to deal with this. If you've been trained to see a freeze state as a problem, as a fault with your own self, it really, you can really get yourself into a stuck place with that if you believe all those voices that you've heard about this, instead of giving yourself the compassion and the allowance to be where you are first. Because if you're angry at yourself for being in a freeze state, chances are you're not giving your body a safe feeling because you're in resistance with yourself, right? So I know this has nothing to do with singing, but it kind of does. If you've been with me for a while, you know I'm getting there. Yeah, Sam, it's a slow process. I'm so proud of you for doing all the work that you're doing. It's amazing. Yeah, so sometimes all it takes is just like, okay, my brain is not, my mind is not helpful right now. Noticing when you are just resisting your own state and giving yourself that, reminder to tell the gremlin to F off. It's not helpful to resist being in whatever state you're in. Number one always has to be allowance. And that comes in singing all the time. I've done whole lives on allowance, because we have to allow ourselves to be where we are so that we're not punching ourselves down the second we get back up, right? So going in through the body is something that I didn't know was a big deal until I learned about the nervous system. And I didn't realize that I was kind of doing it already. Like I used to do a lot of yoga, and I used to run, and because I'm a fighter, my default is not freeze, so I didn't have to deal with that very often. And when I did, I was like totally in resistance mode. I was like, this sucks. I can't do anything. It's my fault. Blah blah blah. And so I realized that I was not in allowance mode because I'm a fighter. That's how I am so used to getting myself back into a regulated state. I was like, why isn't this working? This is I'm broken, and so for so long, when I was dysregulated, I would just go do yoga, and I would move and I would run and I would instinctively go get the endorphins, or talk to a friend or my dad or my partner at the time. Co-regulation, that's a default for so many of us, but it is not for a lot of other of us. Like some of us are just not in the habit of going and getting endorphins and going to talk to people about their problems because maybe that's not how you were brought through into adulthood, right? Whoever was your adult may not have modeled those behaviors. Like, goodness knows, I don't know where I got that from, because I was raised in a household that was not exercise friendly. I just kind of started doing that on my own. It's like an instinctive thing. So if you're a fighter or a flighter, that kind of stuff, movement can be really helpful for going in through the body and getting yourself out of this state. And then maybe after a workout, I have so many students that like just randomly one time they came to a lesson after a workout and they're like, I can sing so much easier now. I can hit all these notes that I haven't been hitting. I'm like, yeah, because your body is freaking relaxed. You're not in a heightened nervous system state. You're giving yourself, your body, you're giving yourself a place for those hormones to go to, right? Also, I had a student that came in after like a nice warm bath once, and she was like, I sound so great. This is easy. And I'm like, yeah, go figure. Stress makes a difference. It gets into the body, and how your body is feeling is how you're going to sing. So if you're in a fight or freeze state, that's how you're going to sing. And I've been telling people this on my page for many years. Like, if you're a fighter and you're going for a high note, you're going to over muscle that shit because that's your natural conflict thing, right? It's your natural solution to a problem. If you are a flighter and you're going for a high note, your breath is going to stop and slow down because your natural way to combat that is to hightail out of here, right? And so your body's going to do the same thing. If you're a freezer and you go for a high note, you're going to either be super tight and or both, or the breath is going to stop. Your body's just like, nope, not opening up in any sort of way right now because I am not feeling safe. So this is really good to know about yourself, what your default is. And so when you are in a place of, no matter what's happening, regardless if there's a disaster in your area or not, your body's going to react in different ways. And so for me, like my example is usually when things are going weird in my life, I'm a fighter. I punch it into submission. I go, and I action. But this situation, having a disaster in my community, has been like, it's so much harder on me than my usual hardship, right? And so it's like, okay, I'm most of the time in fight or flight mode. Most of the time in fight mode, I've just been actioning and going. And occasionally I've found myself at the end of my rope after many days of actioning, and all of a sudden I'm in freeze mode and I can't do anything and I'm lashing out at people and I'm like, oh, this is a different feeling. This is a different nervous system state. I can't open my mouth and sing right now. I literally can't, even though I wanted to, because that's usually the thing that helps me feel better and get through all of this stuff and feel all these emotions, but I literally could not. It was weird for me. So if this is your norm, you need to know that there's no amount of forcing that will get you out of a freeze state. You have to coax yourself like a cat. You have to start going through the body. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take it easy, slowly. Don't expect yourself to make huge amounts of progress in a made-up timeline. Like, this thing takes a long time. So if you are in a place of, what's that in reference to? There's not what. Sorry, I don't remember what I said. If you're one of these people that, for some reason you feel like you can't open your mouth and sing, it's a thing that we have to approach from a different way than maybe we've been taught before. So if you can't sing right now, that's fine. To give yourself some love. Oh yeah, no fast way out of freeze. Got it. Okay, yes, perfect. Yeah, and so, singing, there's people will say like, yeah, it's a luxury, you don't need to do it right now, but I truly believe that it is so healing for your nervous system, scientifically as well. Like singing is so good for your vagus nerve, which helps regulate your nervous system. So when we're not in freeze state, if we can practice this, just getting ourselves into a singing place in order to strengthen and help your body do its own regulation, that's going to help you in times when you are in the freeze state as well. Because maybe you have this practice of singing, when you wake up every day, or before you go to bed every night, you're just singing, or when you're making dinner or something, so that those practices become muscle memory and they carry over even when you're in a state of freeze. Sometimes those things can really sink in, and your nervous system's like, oh, this is a thing I do every day. This is not the scary thing. I can do this. And then maybe you are able to go in through the body. Maybe you can start slow movements, depending on how you want to move. Like, I really like this circling movement. And so then after you come to that kind of a place of, oh, okay, I am safe to at least come into, like, out of the roly-poly mode. I can at least open up and be here for a little bit. Then maybe just start by making a little noise, right? We're going easy, baby steps. Just making a little noise. Something as easy as a sigh, a vocal sigh. That can be a really nice, easy way to start coming into your voice again after you've been in a freeze state. Totally. Looking into myself and mentally talking to little me. Yes, I love that practice. I don't do it enough. Metaphysically going back in time I have to create that space, and it's been very healing. So tons of empathy, compassion, grace, and more than anything, patience. Thank you for sharing that, Sam. Yes, absolutely. It takes so much compassion for yourself now and your former self, whether that's 5-year-old self, whether that's 10-year-old self, whether that's 2 minutes ago self. It takes so much remembering in every moment, recommitting to that. I'm allowing myself to be where I am. And then the gremlin comes back, and you have to be like, nope, I am allowing myself to be where I am. And then another gremlin's going to come back, and you have to be like, nope, I'm allowing myself to be where I am. And if you can ease into using your voice, it can be another good tool. But I would start with the hug. It's the best. I love it so much. I got to go teach my next lesson, but thank you for being here with me talking about this. I know it's not the typical session with me, but this is life. Life has its ups and downs and roller coastery feelings, and giving myself compassion, as we were just saying. I don't usually talk about specific exercises and warm-ups anyway. I'm usually talking about this deep shit anyway, so it's no different than my usual. So all that being said, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself, please. And in the ways that people don't usually tell you about. Just in every moment, if you can bring a little more allowance, it's going to make you a better singer and better to yourself, which creates nervous system safety over time. So, love you all. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you very soon.